That's how loud it was.
Yeah,
and I was screaming at the top of my voice.
The Dortmund players looking at each other that night going like... All right, the Reds, it is the Wednesday show. Me, Gareth Roberts, him, Paul Cope. The Late Challenge is who we are. Go and check out our channel. Go and click like. Go and watch some shows. But here we are on This Is Anfield, as ever, talking about the Reds and talking specifically about Liverpool in Europe. Liverpool are, of course, back in continental competition. And we're going to chew the fat about Jurgen Klopp attempting to reach a 5th European final in his 8 years at the club. Already, we have of course been to Bâle in the Europa League. We were unfortunately beaten that day, of course, in 2016. 2018, Kiev in the European Cup, beaten that day as well. Real Madrid. 2019, though, Madrid, obviously we beat Tottenham Hotspur in the final. And then, of course, 2022, Paris. The UEFA Cup, now known as the Europa League then. And that's what we're going for this time around. But lots to talk about. How much will we be going for it? How much is it a priority? All of those type of things. I think I've got to be honest, my view on this is that it's been a little bit done down and too much so. So, you had all that, Thursday nights, Channel 5, Thursday night. You had all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people have sort of like bought into that and gone, that's not a competition that you want to be in. And it's like, it's a bit of a spoiled brat type attitude, that really, I think. I think there are a lot of footy fans of a lot of clubs that would absolutely love to be in the Europa League, love to be planning trips abroad and all that kind of stuff. Equally, I think if you're a footy player, it's sound playing domestically week after week after week. But equally, there must be an adventure side to going abroad and going to places you've never been and playing in stadiums you've never played in for them as much as there is for us. So I think it deserves more credit than it gets myself. What do you think?
I'm with you. I think it's wild. I've always thought this, like, you would think the way it's talked about, there's like 100 trophies to win every year.
Yeah.
There aren't. There's now 3 European trophies, but there were only 2. And there's 3 domestic trophies you can win, one of which is the league, which basically for the past however many years, there's only been 1 horse in the race, maybe 2. So it's like, why would you, who is it dismissing winning the second best European trophy?
Yeah.
It's wild. And it's like with everything else, isn't it? I don't know who dismisses all this stuff, but like, I think the difference is when you've won something like that, it's like, look at West Ham last year. They'll never laugh again at the idea of winning any European trophy. Because guess what? Time. It's boss.
Yeah.
It's great to go on an away trip. It's great to go to a final. It's great to see your lads lifting a trophy at the end of a tournament and getting to celebrate it. That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
100%.
So why wouldn't you want to do it? And especially something like this for us now. I'm going to go into all this, but like, it can literally complete. Like, how many people in the history of English football have won everything you can win?
Yeah. I know, and that's what Jurgen Klopp can do if he wins this competition. Another thing I looked up when I was prepping for this show, I thought, well, who has won it? Because, I think it's more drilled into your head who's won the European Cup and where Liverpool are in the sort of the pantheon of the winners of that particular competition. But, do as many people know what it's like for the Europa League or the UEFA Cup? So I had a look. Sevilla, you won't be surprised to know, I've won it 7 times and they're right at the top of the list. They've been unbelievable in this competition. They did, of course, unfortunately beat us, but they won it in 06, 07, 14, 15, 16, 2020 and 2023.
It's what's mad.
I absolutely love it.
They've won 7 and they only started in 2006.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, they absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So they've won it 7 times. Inter Milan have won it 3 times. Liverpool 3 times. Juventus 3 times. Atletico Madrid 3 times. Borussia Mönchengladbach twice. Spurs twice. Feyenoord twice. Eintracht Frankfurt twice. Gothenburg twice. Real Madrid twice. Parma twice. Porto twice. Chelsea twice. And then we're into the single figures then. But they're included in single wins. Anderlecht, Ajax, Man United, PSV, Napoli, Bayern Munich, Valencia in there as well, Villarreal and others. There's big names.
Why did you skip past Ipswich then?
Ipswich as well, yeah, Bobby Robson.
Yeah.
I was just doing it for brevity, not to take the piss out of them. I'm a big fan of Bobby Robson. But, my point is, there are big names there that have won it, and I wouldn't mind betting that you go and interview players and managers who lifted that cup, and they say fantastic. And we're going to come on to talk about sort of our own history in this competition. But the other thing as well is, this has now got a Champions League spec, associated with it as well for the winner. So we'd expect Liverpool to be in the top 4, I think, this season anyway. But nevertheless, it's a nice little insurance policy if we go all the way to Dublin, lift the trophy, and just in case, do you know what I mean? It's another way we're getting in.
Well, and it's a much more fun way of getting in, isn't it? And it's funny, isn't it? Like, as you were talking then, I was just thinking, I've never looked this up. How many games do you reckon? There's going to be 12 group games. And then how many games to get to the final? Are they all 2 legs?
Well, you miss a round.
If you win, you miss that.
Yeah, so you miss a round when the third place teams from the Champions League drop in if you win your group, which is another reason, by the way, why
and
I
that's
think
the last
Liverpool,
32, is it?
Yeah, that's the round
so
of
then
32.
So you jump into the last 16 if you win your group.
Yeah.
So that means last 16, last 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. So there's only, to win the tournament, you need to play 21 games probably, but you don't need to win 21 games. So that's it. When you think about it, it's a much quicker and more straightforward route into the Champions League than the league, isn't it?
But also, it's just loads of fun.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's and it's fun along the way.
It's loads of fun for us as fans, and like the diehards that go to absolutely everything. And I know a few, and look, I'd go to more if I had availability of tickets. But I've seen a lot of them talking online because I know who they are, and I can see them tweeting about going to new places and going to grounds that they haven't been to before, things like that. Liverpool as well, currently at least, are the shortest odds to win this. Followed by Brighton. Brighton are out at 12s. Liverpool are 10-3 on Sky Bet today when I check this. But the other thing about this competition as well is we don't have to start delving into ancient history or something. I do want to mention sort of 2001 and the importance of winning in Dortmund and what a great time that was. But we've had fantastic nights in this competition under this manager. So, think about that previous time under Klopp in this competition. The group stage, okay. Sion, Ruben Kazan and Bordeaux. Sound. You know what I mean? Hardly sort of great memories from that section of the competition. But then we draw Manchester United. And that was the first time we'd ever played them in Europe in the history of the club. It was only 6 months into Klopp's reign. And what I loved about that, and I remember doing content around it, and I remember how I felt as a fan and all that. And straight away I was like, this is where we show Manchester United how you do Europe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is watch what Anfield's like on a European night, and then compare and contrast it directly to Old Trafford. And we won the tie, and we won the support. Do you know what I mean? We won the doing the European night thing. Yeah. Because I remember that game at home, and You'll Never Walk Alone was absolutely belted out. And, the flags were there, the banners were there, everyone was up for it, including the team. And we come out and smashed them. We beat them 2-0. The record book showed 2-0. But if it wasn't for De Gea, we were out of sight after Anfield. And only De Gea kept them in it. And it was a proper, have that. That's a European night. That's one, that's one for the ages type of thing. Then we go to Old Trafford. There's that fantastic Coutinho goal. And then it's, and it's done. We're through. We've knocked them out. We love beating them anyway. And beating them in Europe like that over 2 legs was fantastic, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was unbelievable. And it's funny, isn't it? Because I've always had this line, when I used to be more active on Twitter, actually tweeting, whenever anyone comes to Anfield and they sing, where's your famous atmosphere? And it's always it tends to be, Luton will come and sing, where's your famous atmosphere? And I remember tweeting once and it got quite a got good response from Liverpool fans, obviously. And I was like, just a heads up for all you fucking knobheads who come to Anfield on a Saturday lunchtime when you support Derby and you're singing, where's your famous atmosphere? Our famous atmosphere has never been for you. Our famous atmosphere has always been for Real Madrid in the Champions League and Barcelona and Man United. And that's the point. if you want to see our real famous atmosphere, combining Man United at home with a European night is like ultimate famous atmosphere level, isn't it?
Yeah, it was
and
superb.
That's what it's all about. And knowing, beating them and having those memories, it is priceless. That's what footy's about.
And, you know, the journey of European competitions, brilliant as well. Like, you know, who knows where it's going to take us, you know, this season. Like I said before, you know, you've obviously got teams dropping out of the Champions League and things like that. So we can see the teams who are in the draw now, but we don't know who's going to be in it at that stage. So, you know, there could be some really big ties ahead. There could be some meaty, you know, matches to come. There's you know, if we get there's Dublin as well, and we all know how well supported we are in Ireland as well, so there's that aspect to it. But going back to that season, the previous season under Klopp in this competition, so we knocked Man United out, then we're drawn against Borussia Dortmund. They were the tournament favourites at the time. It was obviously Klopp's old club. There was the huge, like, unbelievable interest in that tie. You know, like, it was absolutely chocker at the press conferences for it. People were coming from all over the world to look at this because it was such a big story. And again, we were absolutely brilliant. You know, I went to that away leg, and obviously there was the big thing about sort of, you know, the yellow wall and their atmosphere, and so it was similar in a way to the United one. And it was like, okay, we'll see how you do it, and then we'll bring you back to Anfield, and you'll see how we do it. And obviously they sing "You'll Never Walk Alone," and so do we. And they've got a big stand, and, you know, and all of these things, like, you know, and they've got like a great supporter culture there, and we like to think we have. And there was lots of sort of, like, you know, comparisons going on. Big Divock scores out there. Here we get the draw. Lovren and Sacco keeping it tight at the back, which is not a sentence you could always write, but, you know, in that particular instance, that was right. And then the second leg is unbelievable, and I wonder now, you know, does it get lost a bit? Because this is back to a thing I always say about supporting Liverpool. We're so spoiled. We've had so many great nights, great times, great trips, and all the rest of it. The fact that beating Dortmund, knocking out Dortmund in the manner that we did in that second leg is now a bit of an afterthought compared to Barcelona is mad, because the roof nearly came off Anfield that night when Lovren scores that winner. And you know, we're twice needing 3 goals to go through. They were 2-0 up after 9 minutes. Origi gets one back second half. Royce makes it 3-1. The Reds needed 3 goals to win within 33 minutes, and they did it. So, you know, Coutinho, Sacco, and then that Lovren one. And I've got a quote here from Origi. He said, "The coach said we had to create a moment to tell our grandchildren or children about, to make a special night for the fans. We believed in it. When we scored the first goal, we all felt it would be a special moment." And that's Origi talking about it. And then Origi's involved, obviously, with Barcelona. So what's he telling his grandchildren about, or his children? Does he go with that, or does he go with Do you know what I mean? Like, it's unbelievable. And like, and I love, and I remember you talking about this. Presumably, it would have been on the Anfield app. I remember you saying about sort of the Dortmund players looking at each other that night, going like,
well, you've got to hear the Tuchel quote, and I was going to mention that. And it's funny, even as you were talking about all that then, before you got to, and you said the word, I was just thinking we're just spoiled. And I just think we don't often enough sit back and realise how spoiled we are. And I often reference my mate who's a Sheffield United fan, and I reckon it's great. I think if you're a Liverpool fan, if you want to truly appreciate supporting Liverpool, go and befriend someone. If you haven't already got a mate who supports a shitter club, go and befriend someone who supports a shit. Not Everton. That doesn't count because it doesn't feel the same. Go and befriend someone who supports someone who's generally in a lower division. I've had shitty times their entire life watching their club.
Yeah.
My mate goes to me, like, if my mate had been at the Dortmund game as a Sheffield United fan, that would be the greatest football game he's ever been at. He'd be talking about it. When he's about telling your grandkids, that would be the game they tell their grandkids about. Everyone would sit down every Christmas. They're like, oh, this is when we sit down and Grandad tells us all about that match he went to that time. And as you say, we are so spoiled.
Yeah.
This one just gets lost in amongst, like, where would it even rank? Do you know what I mean? In the greatest night. And that's just in our lifetime. Forgetting, like, the history of Liverpool Football Club, Saint Etienne and all them that we were raised hearing about. And I remember Tuchel talking about it, like, And you're right. I remember talking about that in the past, like being at the ground and then watch it back on telly. And it was one of those moments where I love it when opposition managers credit it. And we've seen it since with like, once they're retired or they're not in England anymore, Wenger and Mourinho both been able to be a bit more effusive about it and honest about it.
Guardiola, though, to be fair.
But that's the thing. Even in like real time, Tuchel, Guardiola, both top managers, really top managers who are like, I can't explain it to you. I can't. Do you know when people are like, how do you I remember the post-match interview. How do you explain it? He's like, I can't.
Yeah, his quote is, if you expect an explanation, I have to disappoint you. It was not logical. It was very emotional. It was an atmosphere when I think everybody except our supporters believed it was meant to be. It was destiny. If you think about the Champions League final with AC Milan when Liverpool came from 3-0 down to win, that contributed to the energy and the belief in the stadium. Then everyone believed in the lucky punch. We wanted to win like champions. Now we must at least lose like champions and pick ourselves up. But there is this thing. I mean, like I always think it's dead funny, reading or hearing comments from, opposition fans or fans of other clubs where they say that we're all daft and that, like it's a myth that there's a thing about Anfield or whatever. And it's like, all right, well, you can think that all you want. And like, we've had the yearly article that we always have, which is always written by someone and it's just poking the bear, isn't it? Every year, Anfield's got the best atmosphere. I'll leave it up to you to comment on that. I seen the other day, literally, that was on Joe, I think it was. And every year, they'll all pipe up and they'll all say it's not special and they'll all say it's not different and they'll all say Scouse of this, Scouse of that, Scouse exceptionalism and all the rest of it. And yet us, who've been a part of it, who've been at these nights, who stood on the streets and welcomed the coaches and all of those things, been in Istanbul, how can you not think that it's something special? How can you not think that it's magic? And that's what's so great about European nights. And that's why, I think we will be up for this. I think it's noise outside that says this is a secondary competition. If we get on a run in this, if we get to the later stages, we start drawing big teams and all the rest of it, even if it is a Thursday night, and even if it was on Channel 5, which it won't be this season, but we won't care because we'll be in Europe and we do Europe well.
100%. And something else you can guarantee is I love all this like other fan thing and all the digs and all the criticism and all of that. Ignore all of that, right? And just listen to the people who know what they're talking about, which is the people inside the industry. And
John Terry's another one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was hilarious, that coming into that. And then hear about how they all speak about it now and you're like, change your tune. Joe Ferguson, Gary Neville, all these people that when asked now, what was the toughest place to go to?
Seen Patrice Evra talking about it the other day.
Was he?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Saying, he used to say, like Ferguson used to like sit us down and say, this is different.
Yeah.
You need to prepare differently for this. And he basically said, like, when they went, obviously they did come here and win under Ferguson. He said it was like celebrated like no other result because it was like, that's different
but
going
think
there.
About that. And look, me and you've talked about it in the past, and I used to say I talk about them too much sometimes, but why did Ferguson United have success at Anfield? Because he gave it the respect it deserved. He treated it differently. He was saying to his own players, who were the best team on the planet, this is different. We have to play these differently to other people. Imagine his players, like some of his players would be like, what? Whereas Mourinho, when he came in 2005, and his players were going, we've played in big atmospheres before. He'd have been doing the same thing. Yeah, played in big atmospheres before, it's fine. And guess what? When you get knocked out by us, and think about that side back then that we had no right to go through that tie, did we? Compared to what Chelsea had on their pitch and the players they had on the pitch.
But again, that was unbelievable. I mean, I still swear to this day that the cop was literally moving under our feet that night.
It was. I was on the cop, and because I always remember saying, and this again, these are stories you tell, and we're in our 40s. We'll be telling, God spares us, as my mum says. Like if we're still alive when we're in our 80s and we are granddads and we're telling these stories, they'll sound like we've added to them over the years. You can imagine people going, "Oh, your granddad with his exaggerating his stories." I've said since the night I was on that cop, I couldn't hear my own voice coming out my own mouth. That's how loud it was. Yeah, and I was screaming at the top of my voice and it was moving under my feet. And I remember coming out afterwards and hearing Chelsea fans on radio phones and stuff and in papers saying, we've never heard anything like it. There were 3,000 of us and we couldn't hear ourselves singing because they were so loud. So everyone else can say what they want. But the reality is, whether we were favourites for this competition or not, there is one name in this draw, Joe, by the time we go through, which we should, that every other club in this competition, including, by the way, the teams that drop in from the Champions League, there is one club nobody wants to draw, and that's us. 100%. Because they all know, because we've done this so often now, they all know, let's say we've got a 2-leg game and they beat us 3-0 at home. They're like, they're usually like, well, that's done. And they're playing us, they go, it's not done.
It's not. Look what they did to Barca.
They did this to Barcelona. Yeah. And not just any Barcelona, by the way. Barcelona, they were flying with Lionel Messi in their side. When, everyone forgets this, we had players missing. Yeah. We played that game with Divock and Shaqiri. And we still did it. I always remember it again. I love it. One of the great things about being involved in stuff like this, in the rap in the past and all that, is the next day, obviously, it was all hands on deck for interviews, wasn't it? And someone from the office got in touch with me to say, can you go down to do CNN outside the ground? I was like, yes, I love that. Yeah. And I did an interview on CNN, and I was chatting to the woman who was interviewing me before, and she was a United fan. So she was like laughing with me, going, so it's not great for me. And I was like, well, I'm a bit hungover, so I'll have to be careful, I'm coherent. And one of the questions she asked me was, like, did you honestly, she went, be honest, like, before you came into the ground, did you think you had a chance? And I laughed and went, yeah. And she laughed. And I went, I don't think enough people, what you said before, I don't think enough people who dismiss this give it enough credit. There is something magical under this ground.
And we've been part of it.
Exactly.
I mean, like I haven't even mentioned Villarreal. Like we go out there in this same run and we get beat 1-0 in the first leg. And then what do? We go, okay, we're going to make it unbelievable for the second leg. Yeah. We're going to greet the bus. The atmosphere is going to be off the chart. And it was. And Liverpool turned it on. And we blew them away 3-0. See you later. And we're in the European final. So I don't see any reason why we can't sort of go on that kind of journey again with this squad. We've got loads of talent. Okay, in the early stages, you can see them sort of, blooding some of the youngsters and going with like a slightly, not a strong side and with the Premier League in mind and all that. But as we go on, and as you get later and later into the competition, it becomes more and more important, doesn't it? And you get closer and closer to a trophy and you think, well, we're going for it then. And I don't see Klopp not going for it. I don't see him sort of not being bothered. I think he'll be all in on it.
Well, he'd be crazy not to be. And for the players who are still in our squad, I think it's one of the mad reasons. For me, it's one of the reasons I think it's mad that Henderson decided to go. Forget like all the stuff that's behind it and all the no one asked me and I didn't feel loved and all that. If I was Jordan Henderson, I'd have said, I'm staying for one more season to win the Europa League because I want the full collection. Yeah. Like I said before, how many people in the game have got the full collection of winners' medals? Practically nobody.
And instead you're playing in front of League One crowds and
playing
no
in front
one
of
cares.
1,000 fans at the weekend apparently, which for me is bananas. But there's forgetting him because he's gone. You've got coaching staff there, including the manager, and you've got enough players left in this squad who that still applies to. And they should all be saying to everybody, and look, by the way, they get to do the full collection, but they can be saying to other lads, this can be your first European trophy. And that means something. Yeah. That really does mean something.
It's a Bosch trophy as well. Yeah. It's like, it's a Bosch looking
trophy itself. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a lovely thing. Like, I wanted to mention as well, just our relationship with this competition. 2001 was obviously really special as well. The Cup treble season, Champions League qualification bolted on as well. Liverpool's first European final as well since 1985. And it was sort of like, our generation or my generation, whatever you want to call it, our chance really to go and enjoy those sort of special moments. And, there was lots of trips leading up to it as well, go out and winning 2-0 in Rome for those who went out there. I went to Barcelona and I was there for the home leg as well when we knocked them out. And that was special. That was brilliant. It's Barcelona, for God's sake, do you know what I mean? And okay, Barcelona Redux or whatever you want to call it is probably better. Obviously, it's in the big one and all the rest of it. But that's a special memory for me when we knocked them out. And, Pepe Reina with hair in goal for them and all that kind of stuff. But I can remember, it was similar on the Kop that night in terms of like, it was a fantastic atmosphere. We went wild when we knocked them out. I remember us all going into town afterwards and essentially, drinking town dry.
Yeah.
Like I can remember Slater Street, and nowhere on Slater Street had ale. And like
which is wild, isn't it, when you think about it?
And like I can remember the cop was coming, and to be fair, not kicking off, but they came, horseback full it, and they were just sort of going like, lads, you need to go home now.
Yeah.
Like we get it, and like we know that you've had a fantastic night and you're in a final and all the rest of it, but you need to go. And eventually we did. Do you know what I mean? But we went home very, very happy. And obviously there's the mad final in against Alaves in Dortmund. No one actually sure we'd won the thing when that goal goes in to make it 5-4. But again, that was unbelievable. It was fantastic. It's a memory I'll always cherish, and it was a big deal. It was a really big deal to do it. And you can delve further back into history, but I don't really see much point in us doing loads on, Bill Shankly winning it in 73 and Bob Paisley winning it in 76. But, on a very simple level, if it's good enough for them.
100%. Well, and look, I think you've mentioned this elsewhere, but I think Carragher references, doesn't he? That winning that trophy was the bedrock that then allowed them to go on to win the Champions League. And it comes back to what I've just mentioned a few minutes ago. There's a core of this squad that has won everything already, all the big stuff, but there's loads of new lads who haven't. Yeah. And that's a big deal for them to, we've already said, like for them to already have experienced Newcastle away, for example, and what the magic that this club can do, for them to start experiencing some of the European nights. And we've already seen the footage of Gravenberch at when he was just at the ground and You'll Never Walk Alone was on before the game, and he's like looking around as if to say, this is what I'm here for. And that was just before a normal league game. For them to all get to experience all of these magical nights and the amazing European trip, that's massive for this new Liverpool side.
100%. Yeah, what else was I going to mention? I mean, there's other stuff in this competition as well. Obviously we've won it 3 times. What I was going to say to you then was when you were talking about Anfield and sort of like wandering around and taking it all in. I went with me little lad the other day. He was only 2.5, but I just went for a walk with him basically, and went round the shop, but like got a picture of him with Shankly and got a picture of him with the Paisley and Emlyn Hughes and all that. And I it's just someone walking past. I said, can you just get a picture of the pair of us there? And she said, oh yeah, we'll just sit on the edge there and I'll get the Champions wall in. And I thought, whoever come up with that, fair play, because it sends tingles down your spine when you just see it listed like that, all the trophies this club's won. And the UEFA Cup is there 3 times. Yeah. And wouldn't it be boss to see that go 10 to 4?
Well, I love that now, because they've got that now. And when you win, and the fella, it's like when you see them when you win a trophy and you see the fella doing the engraving. I love it when they show the bit of them changing the number. Yeah, it's boss, you're like, we're putting it up. You're like, it just, that is what it's all about. Like the hairs on your arm standing up 100%. And all that. And again, don't take it for granted. Yeah. Like other clubs don't have like champions walls. Do you mean, or whatever it's called? Wall of Champions.
I wanted to mention as well, I was doing sort of research for this, as I mentioned earlier, and just getting me dates right and me times right and all this kind of stuff. And I thought there are other little bits in this competition that I'd sort of, not forgot about, but sort of they needed digging out again, if you like. And I was thinking, I was thinking back to my first European night, and it was against QCC Lahti in this competition, and we won 6-1. They were like this Finnish side. They actually sort of held their own for a fair while, and obviously got a goal, and then Liverpool sort of overpowered them in the end. So Dean Saunders got 4. The mad thing is that I was researching that on Monday, and when I looked it up, it was 32 years to that day that we'd played the game. And I just thought, that's weird,
mad, isn't it?
That's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
And I've still got my tickets from that game and everything. And, again, only them and only this Finnish side that no one had heard of. But I was made up to be there on, Liverpool's return to Europe. That was the first time there was a game at Anfield in Europe for 6 years. Been a 6-year gap after Heysel. And it's also in that campaign, it was the next game, it's the next round that they played Hawks here. And like, it's funny, that game, isn't it? It's like there was 23,000 there, and yet there seems to have been about 3 million there, because like everyone seems to have, I remember Hawks here, bosh that,
I was there,
I didn't jib it because we got beat 2-0 in the first. Like, I was there, mate, Walters, lad, and all that. But, you know, that was like, you know, that was the soonest days, obviously. That's a long time ago, 32 years. But the wider point I'm trying to make here is, you can have a great time in this competition. It's still Europe, and Europe is special. Playing teams from all over the place that you've never heard of in some respects, like them even. You know, you can still have those fun. And it just, I don't know, something about it break and bristle a bit more than your ordinary Premier League game or whatever, can't it?
Absolutely. And look, it goes back to the, you know, being spoiled and taking things for granted. Just look at other sides. Look at the likes of Brighton and West Ham.
Yeah.
How much they celebrate just getting into the competition.
Yeah.
Like, they're just in, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. We've never been here before. And there's us, spoiled brats.
He was going on about that, you know, at the weekend, because, you know, Brighton won well at Old Trafford. Scored an unbelievable team goal as well. But anyway, when he was asked about it afterwards, you know, the questions were all sort of very much like, at what point you start saying you're going for the top 4, and at what point you like recognise that you're playing really, really well, and there's actually not that many sides that are better than you in the league and all that. And his answer was, I know, yeah, but we're focusing on the fact that we're going to play our first game in Europe here. And that's huge. And we want to go on an adventure there and all that.
Nice.
And I thought that was boss.
Yeah.
Because I thought, is right.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going, we're only in the Europa League.
Yeah.
Channel 5, Thursday night. Yeah. You know, he's like, yes.
It's amazing.
Because he's recognising there that, imagine you're a Brighton fan, you know, and where they were, like Goldstone Ground, and like, where they went and played somewhere else. I wish I could remember the story properly now, but my memory's failing me. They went and played at other people's grounds. It like looked like the club was going to go tits up at one point. And now they're in Europe. Like, if you've been a fan through all of that, you're like, book me plane tickets, book me hotel. Here we go, get in.
Exactly.
What we've got to talk about before we go on this then is the team that Klopp might go with. Obviously, you would expect them, wouldn't you, to sort of rotate his pack. Matt's done a bit of heavy lifting for us here. Let's give him a bit of credit. He's come up with a team for us to let's get this team up first of all, and then you say if you agree or disagree with it. So he's gone with Kelleher in goal, Gomez, Matip, Kwanzaa, Tsimikas as the defence, Endo, Elliott and Gravenberch and Doak in midfield, or whatever. I'm not doing formations. And Gakpo and Jota. I was looking at it thinking 4-4-2, and then I started thinking, is it 4?
Yeah, 4-3-3, yeah.
And then he's also put there, and there's an injured trio of Connor Bradley, Bajcetic and Thiago as well, who you would expect to be getting in at some point when they are fit and available. But what did you think of what he's deemed a second choice 11 there for the Europa League?
Well, it just shows you how strong our squad is now, doesn't it? Like, despite me moaning about it in other places, on other shows.
On Monday.
Yeah, literally on our last show. We have got a boss squad. We have got a deep squad, and it's mad that you can put that team out and he's being generous to Connor Bradley there, but for that team to be available, and we've still got Bajcetic and Thiago out, is nuts when you think about it. Like, a midfield of Endo, Elliott and Gravenberch to play most of these teams is well good enough. A strike force of Gakpo, Jota and Doak. And think about the lads you'll have on the bench. Yeah. Like, I'm sure he'll throw some younger lads in to give them a bit of experience, but he'll do that thing of having some firepower on the bench, some experience on the bench. I mean, look at the sides we're playing, and you know, you can get carried away because how much do we know about any of them? Me, not much. But you can't imagine they're going to have that much power.
But it could be one for, like, you know, Nunes is still on this weird cusp of the team, isn't he? Where, you know, he's obviously done what he's done at Newcastle, and then he's got in against Villa, but then he's out again when we're playing Wolves, and what we heard about, you know, how he felt about being out was that he had a cob on. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the manager was saying, like, he's using the cob on to motivate himself. You know, this could be a competition for him if he's not getting in. It's a competition where because that competition up front for places is
huge,
is great in a way that we've got that much talent there. But this is a competition where, because he got an hat-trick, didn't he, against Rangers, didn't he, in Europe? And this could be a competition where go and rack some goals up.
Well, I think this is really
substandard opposition. I mean, being what are you supposed to say at this point? With the greatest, no disrespect or whatever people always say in football.
With the game,
bollocks.
I hate all that. And we'll get ourselves in trouble for all that. But I remember saying,
so I'll clip it when we get beat
with the least respect possible. But I think that's the point with this. It's like, I think the whole idea of, some people be saying like, yeah, but you won't want to play in the shitty Europa games. You want to play in I think when you're a striker, you're not arsed. Like we were saying on the last show, Mo Salah want to play in every game. Why? Yeah. You want to score goals. Like if any of these lads are banging in hat-tricks in the Europa League, they'll be made up because they're scoring goals.
Mo will be fuming because he'll be like, I'm trying to close down Billy Liddell or whatever. Exactly. Like whoever's next on the list. You know what?
I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah. That'll be a reason he's banging on Klopp's door to play, won't he? Yeah. Because he'd be like, I can have a 40-goal season here and catch Billy Liddell this year.
Yeah. 100%. So loads of competition for places, loads of different formations and teams that the manager could put out. But I think we're concluding, aren't we, that we're going for it?
Yeah, 100%. We're
going for it. It could be another adventure in this competition. Embrace it, get involved, enjoy it. And who knows, we might go all the way to Dublin. Fingers crossed we do. That's been another show from us. As ever, go and check us out also on The Late Challenge. That is our podcast and video show. Look that up. Give it a go. It's not mainly about football. It's mainly about being middle-aged. But, go and check it out and let us know what you think. And tune in again for the next show on This Is Anfield, which is on Monday, live at 5. And if you like this, spread the word, share it, tell your mates, all of those type of things. But yeah, up the Reds. That's another one from us.